I woke up in a bed that wasn't mine, wrapped in sheets softer than anything I'd ever touched, with a diamond ring heavy on my left hand. Hey friends! Big thanks to all my subscribers. If you haven't joined yet, hit that subscribe button, give a like, and share this story. Let's begin. The stone caught the morning light streaming through tall windows and threw tiny rainbows across the dark silk comforter. My heart slammed once, hard, then kept racing. I stared at the ring like it might disappear if I blinked. It didn't. It sat there, perfect and cold against my skin, proof of something I couldn't remember doing. Beside me, a man slept on his stomach, one arm thrown across the pillow where my head had been. Dark hair messy, shoulders broad under the sheet that barely covered his waist. Even asleep, he looked dangerous in the way beautiful things sometimes are. Sharp jaw, long lashes, lips slightly parted. I knew his face. Everyone in the city knew that face. Luca Moretti. My breath caught. I pressed my palm to my mouth to stop the sound that wanted to escape. Married. The word felt wrong in my head, like a stone dropped into still water. I lifted my hand again, turning it slowly. The band was platinum, simple except for the diamond that looked like it cost more than my mother's house. My mother. Oh, God. I slid one leg out from under the sheet, careful, silent. The mattress didn't even sigh. I stood on carpet so thick my bare feet sank. My dress from last night lay crumpled near the door, deep red, the one I'd bought because Clara said I deserved to feel pretty for once. My shoes were gone. My phone was nowhere. Luca stirred. I froze. He didn't open his eyes right away. He just reached across the empty space where I'd been, fingers brushing the warm place I left behind. A small frown creased his brow. Then his hands stilled. Slowly, those dark eyes opened and found me standing there in nothing but yesterday's underwear and his ring. "Good morning, wife," he said, voice low and rough from sleep. The word hit like a slap. Wife. I took a step back. My legs felt unsteady. What did you do?" He sat up slowly, sheet poolin' at his hips. No shame, no hurry, just calm, the kind of calm that made my stomach twist tighter. "I didn't do anything you didn't agree to. I don't remember agreeing to anything. You were very clear last night." He ran a hand through his hair. "You said yes, 3 times, actually. Once in front of the officiant, once when he asked if you took me, and once when I asked if you meant it." My throat closed. Flashes came then, champagne on my tongue, his mouth on mine, laughter that felt too bright, papers sliding across a low table, my hand shaking as I signed. Had I signed? I couldn't see it clearly. Everything after the rooftop garden was fog. "I want to see the papers," I said. He nodded like he'd expected it. "They're in the drawer, nightstand." I didn't move toward it, not yet. I wrapped my arms around myself instead. "Why can't I remember?" "You drank more than you're used to. We both did." He swung his legs over the side of the bed and stood. Black boxer briefs, nothing else. Every line of him looked carved, deliberate. He didn't come closer. "But you were awake. You looked me in the eye. You smiled when the ring went on." Tears burned behind my nose. I hated them. "I want to go home." His expression softened just a fraction. "You can, after we talk." "Talk?" My laugh sounded broken. "You married me while I was drunk. That's not talking. That's protecting you," he finished quietly. I stared at him. "From what?" He didn't answer right away. He crossed to the window instead, looked out at the city waking below us. The penthouse sat high enough that the streets looked like toy roads. "From the things that come with my name," he said finally. "From people who would use you to hurt me. From a life you're not ready for." I shook my head. "You don't get to decide what I'm ready for." "I know, but last night you asked me to. You said you were tired of being afraid. You said you wanted someone to keep the shadows away. I thought, he stopped, swallowed. I thought you meant it. The room felt too big and too small at once. I looked down at the ring again. It felt perfectly, too perfectly. 24 hours earlier, I'd been locking the bookstore door, apron still tied around my waist, thinking about the electric bill and whether Mom's new medicine would help this time. Clara had run up the sidewalk waving 2 gold-edged tickets like they were magic. Come on, Ava. One night, one stupid, glittering night where we're not worrying about anything. I'd said no 5 times. Then I'd said yes because her eyes were bright and hopeful, and I didn't want to be the reason they dimmed. I'd spent all last dollar on the red dress. I'd stood in front of the tiny mirror in my bedroom practicing how to stand so I didn't look like I'd wandered in by mistake. I'd told myself it was just a party, just 4 hours of pretending I belonged somewhere beautiful. Now I stood in a bedroom that cost more than I'd earn in 10 years, wearing a wedding ring I don't remember accepting, staring at the man who'd slipped it on my finger. Luca watched me the whole time, not pushing, not pleading, just waiting. I need air, I whispered. He nodded towards the balcony doors. They're unlocked. I walked past him, close enough to smell cedar and clean skin, and stepped outside. The city air hit my face, cool and sharp. Below, lights still glowed in the early dawn. Cars moved like slow rivers. Normal life. My life used to be down there. I gripped the railing until my knuckles ached. Behind me, the glass door slid open again. Luca didn't step out. He stayed in the doorway, giving me space. I'll drive you home whenever you want, or I'll call a car, whatever feels safest. I didn't turn around. And the ring? Keep it, sell it, throw it in the river. It's yours. My laugh was bitter, generous. I'm trying to be honest now. I finally looked at him. He leaned against the frame, arms crossed, eyes steady. No mask. For the first time since I woke up, he looked almost tired. Why me? You could have anyone. He didn't smile. Because when I saw you last night, standing by that pillar, trying not to look lost, I remembered what it felt like to want something real. Not power, not money, just someone who looked at me and didn't flinch. My chest hurt. And marrying me fixes that? No, his voice dropped. It complicates everything, but it also makes you untouchable. To them, to the people who watch me for weakness. I turned back to the city. The sun was climbing now, painting gold across glass cowers. Somewhere down there, my mother was probably waking up, wondering why I hadn't called yet. Somewhere down there, Clara was probably texting me, asking if I had fun. I touched the ring again. It still felt foreign, but it also felt steady. I don't know what to do, I admitted. Luca stayed quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was softer than I'd ever heard it. Then stay until you do. I closed my eyes against the sunrise, and for reasons I couldn't name yet, I didn't say no. I stepped back into the bedroom, the balcony air still clinging to my skin. Luca hadn't moved from the doorway. He watched me with that same steady gaze, not crowding, not retreating, just there, like he'd wait forever if that's what it took. I'm not staying, I said, even though my voice sounded thinner than I wanted. He nodded once. I heard you. But he didn't look away, and neither did I. The silence stretched until it felt alive between us. My eyes dropped to his bare chest, the faint lines of old scars I hadn't noticed in the dark last night. One curved along his ribs, like someone had tried to carve him open and failed. I wondered who'd done it. I wondered why I wanted to know. I need my dress, I said. He stepped aside. It's there, on the chair. I crossed the room quickly, grabbed the red fabric, and held it against me like armor. The silk was cool now, wrinkled, smelling faintly of his cologne and champagne. I glanced toward the bathroom door. Take your time, he said. I'll wait downstairs. He left without another word, closing the bedroom door softly behind him. The bathroom was bigger than my entire living room. Marble floors, gold fixtures, a shower that looked like it belonged in a magazine. I turned on the water and stood under it until the heat turned my skin pink. I tried to wash away the fog in my head, the ring on my finger, the memory of his mouth saying, "wife." Nothing came clean. When I came out, dressed again, hair damp and loose, the bedroom felt too quiet. I found my shoes under the bed, black heels Clara had insisted I borrow. I slipped them on and walked to the nightstand. The drawer opened silently. Inside lay a single folder, cream paper, no label. I opened it. The top page was a marriage certificate, city seal, date yesterday. My signature stared up at me, shaky but mine. His was bold, certain. Below it, a small photo clipped to the corner, us on the rooftop garden, his arm around my waist, my head tilted back laughing at something he'd said. I looked happy. Drunk, maybe, but happy. My stomach twisted. I closed the folder and left it there. Downstairs, the penthouse opened into wide glass walls and low furniture that probably cost more than my yearly rent. Luca stood at the kitchen island, sleeves rolled up, pouring coffee into 2 mugs. He didn't look surprised when I appeared. "Black?" I nodded. He slid the mug across the marble. Our fingers didn't touch. I wrapped my hands around the warmth anyway. "I don't remember the rooftop," I said. He leaned back against the counter. "You do remember parts." "The kiss," I admitted. Heat crept up my neck. "The way you looked at me like I was the only person in the world." His eyes darkened. "You were." I took a sip. The coffee was strong, perfect. "That doesn't make this okay." "I know." "Then why do it?" He set his own mug down. "Because the second I saw you standing by that pillar, trying not to look like you wanted to run out of that gala alone, I'd regret it for the rest of my life. And because," he paused, jaw tight, "because I've spent years making sure no one could touch the people I care about. Last night, I decided I was done waiting." I stared at him. "You don't know me." "I know enough." He stepped closer, slow. "I know you work 12-hour shifts and still read to your mother every night. I know you keep change in your apron pocket for the homeless guy outside the bookstore. I know you smile at strangers even when you're exhausted. I know you're brave in ways most people never have to be." My throat closed. "How?" "Does it matter?" "Yes." He exhaled. "I looked into you after the first time I saw you. Not to hurt you, to understand why someone like you still believed the world could be kind. I felt exposed, raw. And marrying me helps how? It puts my name around yours. In my world, that's armor. People don't cross what's mine." I laughed, short and sharp. "I'm not property." "No," his voice dropped. "You're a choice, mine, and I'm hoping, praying you'll choose me back." The air between us thickened. I could smell the coffee, his skin, the faint trace of last night still on me. Desire flickered low in my belly, unwanted but undeniable. "I need to think," I said. "Take all the time you need." He gestured toward the elevator. "The car's waiting whenever you're ready. Or stay, have breakfast, walk around, ask me anything." I looked at the elevator doors. Freedom 10 steps away. Then I looked at him, tall, quiet, waiting like he'd already lost something precious and was afraid to move. I set the mug down. "Tell me about the scar on your ribs." He touched it absently, fingers tracing the line. "Old mistake, someone I trusted. Long story." "Tell me." He studied me for a long moment. Then he smiled, just a small one, almost sad. "Only if you sit with me first." I hesitated. Then I walked to the long gray sofa and sat. He followed, keeping space between us, just enough that I could feel the heat of him without touching. He started talking, quiet, honest, about a brother who betrayed him years ago, about learning too young that trust was currency and most people spent it fast, about building walls so high even he sometimes forgot what was on the other side. I listened, really listened, and somewhere between his low voice and the city humming far below, I realized I wasn't running anymore. Not yet. The morning stretched on, coffee turned to tea,
Questions turned to silences that didn't feel empty. At some point, he reached over and brushed a strand of damp hair from my cheek. His thumb lingered. I didn't pull away. And when he leaned in, slow, giving me every second to stop him, I met him halfway. The kiss was different from last night, softer, hungrier, like we both knew exactly what we were choosing this time. When we broke apart, my breath was uneven. "I still don't know what I'm doing," I whispered. He rested his forehead against mine. Neither do I, but neither of us moved to leave. And for the first time since I woke up with his ring on my finger, that felt like enough.
The elevator doors closed behind us with a soft chime, sealing the penthouse quiet. Luca pressed the button for the roof. Neither of us spoke during the short ride up. My pulse hadn't slowed since the kiss on the sofa, slow, searching, like we were both testing the edges of something fragile. The doors opened to night air scented with roses and city rain. The rooftop garden stretched wide under strings of warm lights. Stone paths wound between low hedges and blooming white flowers that glowed against the dark. A small fountain bubbled in the center, the only sound besides our footsteps. Luca led me to a curved stone bench tucked under an arbor heavy with climbing vines. He sat first, leaving space. I hesitated, then settled beside him, not touching, but close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating from his arm. "You wanted the story," he said quietly. I nodded. "The scar." He rolled up his sleeve again, slow, deliberate. The faded lines circled his wrist like a thin silver bracelet someone had tried to erase. "This one's older, from when I was 19. My brother, half-brother really, thought he could take what was mine, the family business, the name, everything. He traced the mark with his thumb. He didn't like being told no. One night he got me alone, tied my hands with wire, said he'd cut deeper if I didn't sign papers handing it over." My stomach turned. What happened? I waited until he got careless, then I used the same wire to get free, broke his wrist instead of his neck. He ran, haven't seen him since. Luca's voice stayed even, like he was reciting something he'd memorized long ago. The scar stayed, a reminder that trust is expensive. I looked at the mark again. It wasn't ugly, just permanent. "You could have it removed." I could. He met my eyes. "But I don't want to forget what happens when I let someone too close." The words hung there, heavy, honest. I swallowed. "I'm close now." "You are." His gaze didn't waver. "And I'm terrified of what that means." Something inside me cracked open at the admission. This man, who moved through rooms like he owned the air, who'd slipped a ring on my finger while I was half lost in champagne, looked almost vulnerable under the moonlight. I reached out before I could stop myself. My fingertips brushed the scar. His breath hitched, just once. I traced the line the way he had, slow, careful. His skin was warm. The raised edge felt like memory under my touch. "I'm scared too," I whispered. He turned his hand, catching mine gently, our fingers laced together without hurry. "Of me?" "Of this." I looked down at our joined hands, then up at his face. "Of wanting it anyway." The fountain kept bubbling. Somewhere far below, traffic hummed like distant rain. Luca lifted his free hand and brushed his knuckles along my cheek. "Then let me show you something real." He stood, pulling me up with him. We walked deeper into the garden until the lights dimmed and the city skyline opened wide, towers glittering like fallen stars. He stopped near the edge where a low wall held climbing roses. Their petals brushed my arm as we passed. He turned me to face him. "Close your eyes." I did. His hands settled on my waist, light, reverent. Then his mouth found mine. This kiss wasn't like the others, not drunk and reckless, not careful and questioning. It was slow, deep, like he was pouring years of silence into every brush of lips, every soft exhale.
My hands slid up his chest, feeling the steady thud of his heart under my palms. I pressed closer. He groaned low in his throat, fingers tightening just enough to anchor me. When we broke apart, my forehead rested against his, breathing the same air, tasting salt and want. "Do you feel it?" he murmured. "Yes." "Then stay with it, just for tonight." I opened my eyes. His were dark, unguarded. Moonlight carved shadows across his face, making him look almost unreal. "I don't know how to do this, any of this." "Neither do I," he smiled. "Small, crooked, real. But I want to learn, with you." My chest ached in the best way. I lifted onto my toes and kissed him again, briefer, softer, a promise instead of a question. We stayed like that a long time, holding each other under the roses, listening to the city breathe below us. No more words, just the quiet press of bodies, the slow slide of hands, the way desire built like heat under skin. At some point, he pulled back just enough to look at me. "Come inside when you're ready, or stay out here. I'll wait either way." I nodded. He walked back toward the glass doors, leaving me alone with the night. I touched my lips. They felt swollen, alive. I looked down at the ring, still there, still sparkling. For the first time since I woke up wearing it, the weight didn't feel like a chain. It felt like a beginning. I glanced toward the doorway. Luca stood just inside, silhouetted against the warm light, watching me with quiet patience. I took one step, then another, and when I reached him, I slipped my hand into his without a word. He closed the door behind us. The garden lights dimmed as we left them behind, but the heat between us only grew.
The rooftop door clicked shut behind us, sealing the garden's cool night air outside. Inside the penthouse, everything felt warmer, closer. The lights were low, golden pools spilling across dark wood floors. Luca didn't turn on anything brighter. He just stood there, still holding my hand, thumb brushing slow circles over my knuckles like he was memorizing the shape of them. I looked up at him. Moonlight from the glass walls carved his face in silver and shadow. The scar on his wrist caught the light when he lifted my hand to his mouth and pressed a kiss to the inside of my wrist, right over my pulse. It jumped under his lips. "You're shaking," he murmured against my skin. "I know." He smiled, small and soft. "Still scared?" "Terrified." I let out a breath that sounded like a laugh. "But not of you. Not anymore." His eyes darkened. Not with anger, with something hungrier, deeper. He stepped closer until there was no space left. My back met the cool glass wall. He braced one hand beside my head, the other sliding to the small of my back, pulling me flush against him. "Then let me take the rest of it away," he said. I didn't answer with words. I answered by rising onto my toes and kissing him. This time there was no hesitation, no careful question in the touch. His mouth opened over mine like he'd been starving for it. I tasted coffee and mint, and him, sharp, warm, addictive. My hands found his shirt, bunching the fabric, pulling him closer until I could feel every hard line of him pressed to me. He groaned low in his throat. The sound vibrated through my chest. His hands moved. Slow at first, reverent, sliding up my sides, thumbs brushing the undersides of my breasts, through the thin silk of my dress. I arched into the touch without thinking. Heat pooled low in my belly, spreading fast. Luca broke the kiss just long enough to speak against my lips. "Tell me to stop." I shook my head. "Don't." His fingers found the zipper at my back. He drew it down inch by inch, the sound loud in the quiet room. Cool air kissed my spine. The dress slipped off my shoulders, pooling at my feet in a whisper of red. I stood there in nothing but black lace and his ring, skin prickling under his gaze. He looked at me like I was something holy and forbidden at the same time. "Beautiful," he breathed. Then his mouth was on my neck, open kisses, teeth grazing just enough to make me gasp. He walked us backward, guiding me toward the wide leather sofa that faced the city lights. When the backs of my knees hit the edge, he eased me down. I pulled him with me until he was over me, weight braced on his forearms, caging me without trapping. I tugged at his shirt.
Buttons gave way under my fingers. His skin was hot, smooth, except for the faint ridges of scars. I traced them, his ribs, his shoulder, like I could learn him by touch alone. He shuddered when my nails scraped lightly down his back. "Touch me," I whispered. He did. His hand slid between us, palm flat against my stomach, then lower. Fingers slipped beneath lace. I arched hard when he found me, wet, aching, ready. He stroked slow circles, watching my face the whole time, every hitch of my breath, every flutter of my lashes, like he was memorizing that too. I reached for him, fumbling with his belt. He helped, shoving pants and briefs down just enough. When I wrapped my hand around him, hard, thick, pulsing, he hissed through his teeth and dropped his forehead to mine. "Ava." My name sounded like a prayer. I guided him. He pushed in slow, inch by careful inch, giving me time to adjust, to breathe. The stretch burned sweet. When he was fully inside, he stilled, letting me feel every inch of him filling me. We stayed like that a long moment, foreheads touching, breathing each other in. Then he moved. Slow at first, deep rolls of his hips that made stars burst behind my closed lids. I wrapped my legs around him, heels digging into his lower back, urging him faster. He obliged. The rhythm built, steady, relentless, until the only sounds were skin against skin, ragged breaths, and the soft, helpless sounds I couldn't hold back. His hand found mine, fingers laced tight. The ring pressed between our palms like a secret we were both keeping. I came first, sharp, sudden, shattering. My nails scored his shoulders. He followed seconds later, burying his face in my neck, groaning my name like it was the only word he knew. We didn't move for a long time after, just held each other while our breathing slowed. His weight was heavy, comforting. I traced lazy patterns on his back, feeling the rise and fall of his ribs. Eventually he lifted his head, kissed me soft, once, twice. "Stay tonight." It wasn't a question, but it wasn't an order either. I nodded against his lips. He gathered me close, lifting me like I weighed nothing, carried me through the dark penthouse to the bedroom we'd woken in that morning. The sheets were still rumpled from earlier. He laid me down gently, slid in beside me, pulled the covers over us both. His arm wrapped around my waist. I curled into him, head on his chest, listening to the steady thud of his heart. The city lights flickered far below. For the first time since the ring appeared on my finger, I didn't feel trapped. I felt chosen. And as sleep started to pull me under, his lips brushed my temple. "Mine," he whispered. I smiled into the dark. "Yours." The word felt right. For now.
Morning light slipped through the half-closed blinds, painting thin gold stripes across the bed. I woke slowly, body heavy with the kind of exhaustion that follows surrender. Luca's arm was still draped over my waist, his breath warm and even against the back of my neck. For a long moment, I didn't move. I let myself feel it, the steady rise and fall of his chest, the quiet safety of being held like something precious. Then I lifted my left hand. The diamond caught the sun and flashed white fire across the ceiling. My heart stuttered. I stared at the ring like it had appeared overnight. Platinum band, flawless stone, perfect fit. Too perfect. I twisted it gently. It didn't budge. My stomach dropped. Careful not to wake him, I slipped from under his arm and sat on the edge of the mattress. The sheets whispered against my bare skin. Last night replayed in fragments, his mouth on mine, bodies moving together like they'd known each other forever, the way he'd whispered my name like a vow. But nothing about papers, nothing about rings, nothing about yes. I stood. My legs felt unsteady. I found his discarded shirt on the floor, pulled it on. It fell to mid-thigh, smelling of cedar and him. I walked to the dresser where the folder still sat from yesterday. My fingers shook as I opened it again. The certificate stared back. Black ink, official stamps, my signature, shaky, slanted, unmistakably mine, right beside his clean, decisive one. Below it, a small notary seal, time-stamped 1:47 a.m., after the rooftop, After the first kiss, after everything blurred into heat and champagne. I pressed my palm to my mouth. Luca stirred behind me. Sheets rustled. Ava? I didn't turn. When did this happen? He sat up slowly. No panic in his voice, just quiet certainty. After we came back inside. You were laughing. You said the night felt like a dream and you didn't want it to end. I asked if you meant it. You said yes. I don't remember saying yes to marriage. You said yes to me. He swung his legs over the side of the bed, stood, naked, unashamed, walked to me without hurry. The officiant was already here, discreet, someone I trust. We did it right here, by the window, city lights behind us. You looked at me the whole time. You smiled when I slid the ring on. Tears burned hot behind my eyes. I was drunk. You were awake. He stopped a foot away. You looked me in the eye. You held my hand. You kissed me after he said we were married. I shook my head. That's not enough. I know, his voice softened. But you also said something else. You said you were tired of being afraid alone. You said if someone wanted to keep the world from breaking you, you'd let them try. My breath hitched. I remembered whispering those words. Maybe not exactly, but close enough. On the sofa, tangled in sheets, high on him in the night. I'd meant it then, or I thought I had. Why didn't you stop? I asked. Because I wanted it too much. He reached out, slow, brushed his knuckles down my arm. I thought if I didn't do it then, I'd lose my nerve. I'd let you walk out that door and spend the rest of my life wondering, what if? I looked up at him. His eyes were raw. No mask, just truth. I arranged the tickets, he said quietly, through Clara. I paid her to make sure you came. I've known about you for years, your father's debt, your mother's bills. I paid them quietly, never told you, never came near you, until I couldn't stay away anymore. The room tilted. You what? I protected you from the shadows, from people who would have used you against me. But last night, he swallowed, last night I stopped protecting from a distance. I wanted you close. I wanted you mine. Betrayal tasted sharp on my tongue. You lied. He hid. He didn't flinch from the word. There's a difference. Not to me. He nodded. I know. Silence stretched thin between us. I looked at the ring again. It still sparkled like it belonged there. I want to leave, I said. You can. He stepped back, giving me space. The annulment papers are ready, unsigned. You sign, it's over. I'll pay everything. Your mother's care, your rent, whatever you need. You walk away clean, no strings. I stared at him. And you? I go back to being alone. His smile was small, sad, which is what I deserve. My chest ached. I hated that it ached. I hated that even now, knowing he'd orchestrated everything, I still felt the pull. The way his touch had felt like coming home. The way he'd looked at me last night like I was the only light he'd ever seen. I turned toward the bedroom door, toward the elevator, toward out. My feet didn't move. Luca watched me, silent. I looked back at him. Why does it hurt to think about leaving? Because you feel it too, he said softly, even if you hate me for it right now. I closed my eyes. Tears slipped free. When I opened them again, he was still there, waiting, not pushing. I took one step toward him, then another. He didn't move until I reached him. I placed my hand on his chest, over his heart. It beat fast, like mine. I don't forgive you, I whispered. I know, but I don't want to leave. His arms came around me, slow, careful. I let him pull me close, let my forehead rest against his shoulder, let the sobs come quiet and ugly. He held me through them, whispered nothing, just held. When the tears slowed, he tilted my chin up, kissed me, gentle, tasting salt. We didn't speak again for a long time. Instead, we moved back to the bed. Clothes fell away again, this time slower, more deliberate. Every touch an apology, Every kiss a question he answered with his body. When he slid inside me, it felt different, not just desire, something deeper, something that scared me more than any lie. Afterward, we lay tangled, breathing together. His fingers traced the ring on my hand. He stayed twice, not because you have to, because you want to. I looked at our joined hands. The diamond still caught the light. I didn't answer, but I didn't pull away either, and for now, that was enough. The days blurred into a strange, suspended rhythm. I stayed, not because the doors were locked, they weren't, but because every time I thought about walking out, my body remembered his touch and refused to move. Luca gave me space when I needed it, crowded me when I didn't. We existed in the penthouse like two people learning a new language. Quiet mornings over coffee, long afternoons where I read on the sofa while he worked in his study, nights where words gave way to skin and breath, and the kind of intimacy that felt like drowning in slow motion. He cooked sometimes, simple things, pasta with olive oil and chili, eggs scrambled soft. We ate at the island, knees touching under the marble. He asked about my mother. I told him about her favorite books, the way she used to hum while folding laundry. He listened like every detail mattered. I asked about his world. He answered in fragments. Board meetings that were more like chess games, old family names that carried weight, enemies who smiled while sharpening knives behind closed doors. Never names, never specifics, just enough to remind me the shadows were real. On the fourth day, Clara called. I'd ignored her texts until then. Short, bright messages asking if I was okay, if the gala had been magical, if I'd met anyone interesting. When her name lit up the screen, guilt and anger twisted together in my chest. I answered in the bedroom, door closed. Avea? Oh my God, finally! Where are you? You disappeared after the gala. I've been freaking out. I sat on the edge of the bed. I'm with someone. A pause, then her laugh, too quick, too high. Luca Moretti? The Luca Moretti? Holy shit, Avea. Tell me everything. How do you know his name? Another pause, longer. Everyone knows his name. He's kind of famous, in a scary way. I closed my eyes. You knew I'd meet him. Silence. Clara. She exhaled. He reached out a few weeks ago, said he'd seen you at the bookstore, said he wanted to meet you, properly. He offered money, a lot, enough to cover my mom's surgery. I said no at first, then she got worse, and I said yes. He sent the tickets, told me to convince you to come, that's all. My hand tightened on the phone. You sold me out. I didn't think it would go this far. I thought you'd have one fancy night, maybe flirt with a hot rich guy, come home with stories. I didn't know he'd marry me. The word tasted bitter. While I was too drunk to remember saying yes, she made a small broken sound. He told me it was real, that you wanted it, that you'd be safe. I believed him because I needed to. I stared at the ring. It still sparkled like it was mocking me. I trusted you. I know. I'm sorry. I hate myself for it. Tears burned. I didn't let them fall. Don't call again. Not for a while. I hung up. The phone slipped from my fingers. I sat there numb until Luca found me. He didn't ask what happened. He just sat beside me, close but not touching, waiting. I was sold to you, I said finally. He didn't flinch. I bought her cooperation, not you. Same difference. No, his voice was low. I never owned you. I manipulated the chance to meet you. That's the sin I carry. I looked at him. How long have you known me? He exhaled. Since your father's funeral. You were 16. You stood by the grave in that gray coat too big for you, holding white lilies. You didn't cry. You just kept arranging the flowers like order could fix grief. I was there because your father owed my family a favor, a big one. Silence about something ugly. After he died, I canceled the debt, started paying your mother's bills, quietly, through third parties. I told myself it was business, mercy. Then I realized it was something else. I swallowed. You watched me, he said, from a distance, never close enough to scare you, until I couldn't stay away.
The room felt too small. That's not love, that's obsession. Maybe, but it's the only kind I know how to give. I stood, walked to the window. The city glittered below, endless, indifferent. I found something else. He got still. In your desk drawer, an old photo, me at 17 outside the hospital with Mom. You had it paperclipped to medical bills you'd paid, and a note in your handwriting. Keep her safe, always. He didn't deny it. I turned. You've been in love with me for years, and you never said anything? I thought staying away was kinder. Anger flared hot. You don't get to decide that for me. I know. I crossed the room, stopped in front of him. I hate you for this. I know. And I still want you. His breath caught. I climbed into his lap, knees bracketing his hips. My hands framed his face. Make me forget the lies, just for tonight. He didn't speak. He just kissed me, slow, devastating, like he was trying to pour every unspoken year into my mouth. Clothes disappeared between breaths. Skin met skin. He lifted me, carried me to the bed, laid me down like glass. This time there was no rush. Every touch lingered. His mouth mapped my collarbone, my ribs, the soft inside of my thigh. When he slid inside me, it felt like coming home and breaking apart at once. I clung to him. He moved deep, steady, whispering my name against my ear like a secret he'd kept too long. Afterwards, we lay tangled, sweat cooling on our skin. His fingers traced the ring. I don't want to lose you, he said. Then stop hiding, I whispered. He kissed my temple. I'm done hiding. I believed him. For the first time, I believed him. And as sleep pulled me under, wrapped in his arms, I realized the scariest truth of all. I didn't want to be unchosen anymore.
The sun rose slow over the city, turning the penthouse windows into sheets of molten gold. I sat on the wide balcony chaise, knees drawn to my chest, the wedding ring still on my finger. I hadn't taken it off since that first morning. The diamond felt different now, not heavy, not cold, just there, like it had always belonged. Luca found me before the light reached the floor. He stepped out barefoot, wearing only loose black pants, hair still sleep-mussed. He didn't speak right away. He just pulled another chair close and sat, elbows on his knees, watching the skyline like it held answers he hadn't found yet. I broke the silence first. I read the note again, the one in the drawer. Keep her safe, always. You wrote that 8 years ago. He nodded once. The day after your father's funeral. Why didn't you ever come to me? I thought distance was protection. His voice was rough, like the words scraped coming out. You were young, grieving, building a life that didn't include shadows. I told myself if I stayed far enough away, the darkness wouldn't touch you. But every time I paid another bill, every time I saw a photo of you smiling at some bookstore event Clara posted, it got harder to pretend I was doing it for duty. I looked at him, really looked. The lines around his eyes were deeper in daylight, tired lines, lonely lines. You fell in love with a ghost. No, he met my gaze. I fell in love with the girl who kept putting one foot in front of the other when the world tried to stop her. I fell in love with the way you still believed in happy endings, even after everything. I fell in love with you, Ava, not the idea of you. You. My throat tightened. And the gala? The tickets? Clara? All of it was me trying to stop being a coward. I'd watched you long enough to know you'd never walk into my world on your own, so I made a door. One night, one chance. I told myself if you walked away, I'd let you. I'd keep paying the bills from the shadows and never bother you again. But I didn't walk away. No. A small, almost painful smile touched his lips. You stayed. You kissed me back. You said yes. Drunk or not, you said yes to me. And then you woke up wearing my ring and looked at me like I'd stolen something instead of given it. I twisted the ring. I thought you had. I know. That's why I'm giving it back now. Not the ring, the choice. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a single sheet of paper, plain white. The annulment form, unsigned. He set it on the low table between us, along with a pen. Sign it, he said quietly, or don't. Either way, nothing changes for your mother. The bills are paid through the end of her life, no strengths. You walk out that door, you never see me again unless you want to.
I'll disappear from your life the way I should have from the beginning." I stared at the paper. Black ink, clean lines, an escape drawn in 12-point font. My hand hovered over it. Then I looked at him, the man who'd paid strangers to keep my mother breathing, who'd memorized the way I arranged flowers on a grave, who'd waited 8 years because he thought love meant staying away, who'd finally broken every rule he lived by just to hear me say his name in the dark. I picked up the pen. His breath caught, barely audible. I set the pen down without signing. Instead, I slid off the chaise, crossed the small space, and knelt in front of him so our eyes were level. I'm angry at the lies, at Clara, at you for thinking you could decide what was best for me, but I'm not leaving because of them. He didn't blink, didn't breathe. I'm staying because when you touch me, I feel seen, because when you look at me, I don't feel small, because even knowing everything, I still want your hands on me, your voice in my ear, your name next to mine on paper that means forever. A tremor ran through him. Ava, I choose you. I lifted my left hand between us. The diamond caught the sunrise and threw light across his face. He closed his eyes for a second, like the words hurt in the best way. When he opened them again, they were wet. I leaned in, kissed him slow, soft, a seal instead of a question. He pulled me onto his lap, arms wrapped tight around me like he was afraid I'd vanish. We stayed like that as the city woke below us, cars humming, lights fading, morning stretching wide and gold. Later, Clara came. She stood in the doorway, eyes red, hands twisting the strap of her bag. I didn't expect you to ever want to see me again. I walked to her, hugged her, hard. She stiffened, then melted, sobbing against my shoulder. I hated you for a while, but I understand desperate love now. She pulled back, looked at the ring, looked at Luca standing behind me. You're keeping it, right? I'm keeping him. She gave a watery laugh. He better deserve you. He's trying. That's enough for today. She left with promises to call, to make it right, to be better. Luca and I stood at the balcony railing after she was gone, his arm around my waist, my head on his shoulder. The city sprawled endless beneath us. Forever's a long time, he murmured. I know. He turned me to face him, kissed me deep, slow, like he was memorizing the taste of yes. When we broke apart, he rested his forehead against mine. Mine, he whispered. Yours, I answered, and this time the word felt like sunlight, like truth, like home.